your thing and be cool. Cause I know exactly whose I am. Don't worry about it, homie, do you. Cause I've been rapping for a minute now. Used to walk around dead, but I'm living now. I'm just being myself. And evidently people gon' hate when you coming with a different sound. So don't question me about my thing. Just do your thing and be cool. Cause I know exactly whose I am. Don't worry about it, homie, do you. Cause I've been rapping for a minute now. Used to walk around dead, but I'm living now. I'm just being myself. And evidently people gon' hate when you coming with a different sound. They say, maybe you should do it like this.
What's up, my tokers, jokers, and smokers? Welcome back to another edition of the Daily Chronicles. Y'all, Rodney in the building with my dude, Adam Lamb from Jeff Life Radio. What's up, dude? Welcome to
brother.
the show.
I got to tell you, man, that is one kick-ass intro, man. I was like jamming in my seat, like not even aware of what I was doing. And then you brought me on the screen. I was like, okay. That's beautiful, man.
Dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on the show, brother. That's Raphael. That's myself. Little known history about the show. It happened because I went to high school with that dude, you know, and a friend of ours, Bear, R.I.P. He died. He produced that track, and I talked to Raphael. You know, I was like, "Yo, Ralph, you got something for me? Like, what would Bear throw?" He was like, "Yo, Bear would want this," and it fits.
It's
so,
awesome, man.
Dude, I love it, man. I appreciate it.
I love the scenes on the beach. You know, it's like awesome, man.
You
live quite a life, dude.
It's insane, but at the same time, I feel I haven't lived it all. I have so much more to learn, you know, so much more to learn, and that's the truth. Yeah. But Chef Life Radio up in the house, man. What's up, brother? Like,
thank you, my brother. Yeah, it's things are really cooking along right now. I've actually added. I started my own little podcast network, and I've added two more shows to those streams. So not only is there Chef Life Radio, but there's a 15-minute short form podcast called Line Check. And while you're listening to it, it actually sounds like, you know, I'm going down the line and, you know, talking to the cooks and checking it as an excuse to get them together for a stand-up to talk about something that's a little bit more deeper. And then I'm also producing a show called Turning the Tables with Jim Taylor from Benchmark 60. Which is converted from a live stream, which is really, really convenient because it's less work. And we talk a lot, not only about workload management, but also some broader subjects. You know, we're all down for the hashtag new hospitality culture. And I think it's been a long time coming. And, you know, I got to give props to some of the young folks that were coming up in the industry and like, well, this is what I want to do. I don't necessarily want to do that. And a lot of the older chefs were like flaming pissed off, man. I'm like, well, what? Like, you can't ask for that. I couldn't ask for that.
Right. What makes you think you get it? Right.
Right. And then, you know, 100 million jobs are lost out of the industry. And a lot of operators are scratching their head going like, fuck, what do we do now, man? We can't do what we always did, which was like not give a shit. And I'm not painting with a broad stroke. I just know that there are some organizations out there that are very forward thinking and have always been staff centric, staff forward. And I celebrate that for them because those organizations are going to be the ones that are going to maintain profitability and be preferred employers in their market. You know, people are going to walk the street and go like, where should I get a job? Oh, over there, because they really take good care of you. And, you know, the pyramid used to be, you know, guest on top, owners and staff. And, you know, that triad needs to flip a little bit because if we don't start reinvesting in our staff, not only, I mean, there's a lot of cultural and historical reasons why that fell away because that's the way it used to be done in the old days, right? This idea of apprenticeship to a craft, almost like a mystery school, man. You had to go to someone else, an initiated elder who held that knowledge and be worthy enough to be given, you know, it's like had all the hallmarks of a hero's journey. And then for-profit culinary schools popped up and everybody's like, well, fuck it, we don't need to do that anymore, man. That's just a waste of money. And so it's coming all the way back down, back around to not necessarily, you know, an enlightened form of leadership, but for me, it's like the old school version of mentorship, like elbow to elbow with somebody, acknowledging them as a you know, whole human being with, you know, some sovereignty and dominion over their heart and soul, and meeting them there, and then connecting with them around some shared values to create a deeper sense of internal community within an organization and then flow forward. And I know that's a lot of fly words, but to me, I know that that's a place I want to go work at, man. right?
Okay.
And I know others want to be there because there's nothing worse than feeling like all your efforts are for nothing, man. It's just, you know, in service to the wheel.
Yeah. I mean, there's this ideology of chefs as rock stars that
Yeah.
you know that it's out there. It was created. I can't say I created it. I mean, I can say that I at one point in time there were chefs that I looked up to, and I was like,
Sure.
you know, if I could be that chef, compare myself. But I took a lesson from something that you and I talked about in the green room that I would love to share now. And
Sure, please go ahead.
you said it wasn't, you know, you learned a lesson in your life when you stopped comparing yourself to a certain individual, you know,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. And that is absolutely true.
Mhm.
You know, and I want to let you know that I'm doing what I'm doing right now, not for anyone else,
Right.
not for myself. I'm just doing it because it makes me happy. You know,
Right,
I'm
man.
doing it because I feel like it needs to be done. I do it
Like-
because I enjoy doing it.
Like,
I
where
love it.
did we forget that, you know, the purpose of our life is actually to enjoy it? Like, there is no seat closer to God just because you venerated hard work and sacrificed your family and friends, you know, in pursuit of some type of recognition that really, if you were given to yourself the entire time, none of that shit would have mattered, man. I mean, I like to euphemistically say that, you know, where I came into the industry, it was like finding the island of misfit toys, you know, because I didn't necessarily belong. And what I really needed at that point was a community to belong to. And so they brought me along, they accepted me, they didn't give a shit where I came from, you know, as long as you could hold down a station, you know,
Hands.
I was welcome. And I never had this vision of like the type of food I want to do, you know, like rock star stuff. No, man. It wasn't until the 1950s that the USDA of the government actually classified chef as a profession.
Correct.
Meanwhile, 200 years previous in Europe, you know, as I said before, you know, chefs are these mystical figures that just show up in a dining room and everybody goes, oh.
So people say that the oldest profession is prostitution. I say it's one of the oldest, and that's fine. And chefs know a lot about that. But the fact is, I believe that being a chef or a cook is probably the oldest, you know, occupation. Because think about it. Let's go back to the caveman time. You're telling me that there wasn't one main caveman that was just better cook than all of the other Uggs? I mean,
well, back then in the day, it was, you know, I don't want to say it was relegated to women's work, but clearly women were much better at it than men. And so there were women as the holders of the home and the hearth that produced all that nutrition for everybody long before men started smarting up and saying, oh, well, I know better, whatever it is. So which for me makes it really weird that you know, that there's still to this day this kind of culinary bro code, this kind of white wall that prevents women and people of color from attaining the highest possible position that they can because they're different. Now, I know a lot of that stuff is breaking, but for me, man, the feminine was part of my entire career path. The very first chef I worked with was a woman. My very first executive sous chef was a woman. And if it wasn't for the women in my life, dude, I would, you know, I'd be under an overpass in a refrigerator box, drinking my natty ice, watching the whole world go by. So I'm here because there were women and also men that stood for me, but from them, I also got, you know, not only soft skills, but also a way to approach it. So, you know, the trope is, you know, you ask a masculine chef and a feminine chef to create the same dish, and the man builds it all like skyscraper food because it's, you know, reminiscent of his phallus. Yet the woman's plate is full of harmony and color, right? Because that's what they're kind of geared to. So neither one nor the other is perfectly true, but the blending of the two, man, that's why, as sensitive souls, and I think that anybody who's in the industry is authentically sensitive, like sometimes almost too sensitive, or else we wouldn't be so attuned to be in service to others. Like, still, it freaks me out, man, that I'm putting my hands on something that someone's going to take in their mouth, digest, and become part of their being. Like, if there's not some sanctity that's applied to that, man, some respect and honor, fuck, man, it might as well be a McDonald's. Technically a calorie. Technically
Right.
it tastes good, but you don't feel nurtured or in any
They can't
way.
even identify the pink, red fucking, why
Yeah.
are we still buying this?
I mean, it's not a knock on them. I'm just saying that that somewhere along the lines, I think we as a fraternity and a profession kind of forgot how we got here. And I have fully stepped into my self-appointed role as elder to be able to talk about this stuff relentlessly, because it's not the first lifetime that I was a heretic on the street corner, in a drenched raincoat screaming at people as they walk past. But
with the boombox.
well, sometimes, yeah. But I talked to somebody. I talked to somebody just the other day. Somebody who I hired in 2000 as his very first cook's job, and I didn't hear anything from him for like all this time. And he reached out.
I read this story. Dude.
Yeah, he reached out and said, "Yeah, can we have a conversation?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'd love to." And he considered me his first mentor, which was kind of like humbling. Then he went to culinary school, did all the right stuff, saved money, bought a little house, got married, had 2 kids. But one of the things that he never really stepped into was his own personal power and standing up for himself, because he was so wired for harmony. He didn't want any conflict or contrast, right? So he was always trying to chill everybody out, which is cool for an operation. But when it comes to your life, sometimes that's a calculation that other people will take to walk all over you. And so for us to connect, it was really, really heartening. And yet, he was completely transparent about some of the challenges he's had and his frustrations, and the fact of his, suicidal ideation and his attempts. And he said, "Listen, I listened to every single one of your episodes." And I'm like, "Really? I had no idea." He's like, "Yeah, because I know where you've come from. I know who you are. I know your story, because you talk about it all the time. And I know that you came through all this, and you're stronger than, and if you can do it, then so can I." Dude, I was fucking in tears, man. I couldn't have asked for any more confirmation from the universe that that I'm on the right track, and I need to stop fucking doubting myself. This whole idea about comparison that you brought up earlier is true. Like it's a competitive business, right? So you're constantly competing against your best friend, the cat across the town. Every time you go to the art museum and there's an event, you're looking at everybody's tables, you're all clocking that shit. So there's never a moment of like, I'm cool with where I'm at, because there's always somewhere else to get to. But that's all entangled with, this sense of self that is less than, as opposed to being completely grounded in, no, this is who I am. This is my path. Rodney, you're like the great example, of being so in the pipe 5x5, man. You are in the zone, in your alley. You don't give a fuck about what's going on anywhere else, right? It's like, I'm going to do me, and I'm going to do me the best possible way I can. And for me, that kind of wisdom only recently, kind of like within literally like the last 10 days, I was shown some stuff and heard some stuff that really, for the last time in my life, will I ever have to compare myself, defend myself, any of that other kind of shit, which is why I'm so glad to be here, because I don't need to make up any other story about myself to appease anyone else, because I'm not trying to be what they want me to be. Right.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's worth, it's worth it to know that they saw somebody in the mirror worth saving themselves.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I mean, how many times? Oh man. I was in Costa Rica for about 7 days doing plant medicine, and the medicine told me that my practice before leaving there was every day I have to look myself in the mirror and say, "I love you." And the first time I did it, it's like I couldn't even tell you the last time I had done it. I had gone through, 5 years of opioid addiction based off of 2 back surgeries and all this other shit, and dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight, all that kind of crap that happens, you know, after shift when you are so amped that you can't go home that way. So look myself in the mirror and go, okay, I'm a flawed human being. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I love you anyway.
You know, there's a question that happens, you know, there's a scenario that we've all who have seen Rock Bottom's basement, who have seen
Rock Bottom's basement. I dig that.
You know,
is this Rock Bottom?
That,
no, dude. It's downstairs.
No, it's worse. You got one more level to go, boy.
Yeah, man. And you gotta walk that out. You gotta walk that on your own.
Oh yeah. But that's the truth. Like when you're at that position in life and you see someone worth saving, you know, or maybe you don't, who knows? But you start to make up these, you want these scenarios that people have talked about in the past. So imagine walking down a lonely road. Let's say you're walking home from home, you know, working a 12-hour double shift, and you're hoping to run into the devil so you can sell your soul so that you know, you can see tomorrow or whatever, for whatever reason. Insert whatever narcissistic personal endeavor here.
Just so you can continue, man, because it's never anything else except maintenance at that point, right?
Correct. And you're like, listen, just make me good at something. I don't even care if it's food, you know, at this point. You give me all the money so I don't have to worry about it or whatever have you. You don't know or give a shit about what he's thinking going, I'm already going to rip this fool off, but sure, whatever. You know, so you're dancing literally in the pale moonlight at that point, you know, signing the contract in blood. And once, you know, that iconic moment happens and you were a person that was wanting that to happen, you were dreaming of this nightmare so that it could be, you know, an end or a moment of solace in whatever you're doing now. I mean, at the end of the day, there's only really truly two words that can properly describe the angst amongst anybody, a cook or a chef and the like. And those two words are fuck brunch.
God damn it, I gotta work the omelet station again.
That's the truth. I mean, listen, there is no other you know, comparable hell.
Everybody hates. Everybody hates. What do you mean the chef and the sous chef are off? What do you mean that? You know, just to jump back to what you mentioned earlier, you know, this whole idea about seeing someone in the mirror worth saving. All along my path, I thought, you know, because I was the apex predator in the aquarium, that I was in the position to, you know, shift destiny, you know, save people or whatever. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that how the fuck can I save anyone if I'm not willing to save myself? Right? It's just patently impossible. You can't get there from here. Now, something you also said about making those choices. I'm just going to come out and say it, man.
Yeah.
If people who are listening or people watching or don't know that they are constantly 100% continuously creating their reality by the thoughts that they have, then if they're willing to let that in, could seriously change their lives. Because the fact of the matter, my daughter, I love her so much. She'd go FML, like, fuck my life. Really? You want to say that out loud? You want to tell that to fucking universe? Because tomorrow what's going to show up is fuck my life, right? My life sucks. Okay, so what's happening? So there's this energetic play in the fifth dimension that's actually conditioning reality in the third dimension to show up exactly as you want it. That's how fucking powerful we are, man. We're doing it all the time, unconsciously. And when we wonder, why do the same things keep happening? Why do I have the same shitty job? Why can't I fucking get ahead? Because we're holding the same thoughts as the truth, when in fact, all they are is a fucking story that we're telling ourselves in the moment to be convenient. Like, accepting responsibility for your life is hard, man. I mean, that means that the only way things are going to get better is if I fucking wake up and do something about it. Like, shit, I don't want to fucking do that.
You got to show up for yourself.
Right.
That's the truth. You know, it's one thing to show up to work. Okay. It's one thing to not show up to work. And it's another thing to show up for yourself when you fucking need it.
Yeah.
You know, and there's going to be things that you do in life that I'm never going to understand, but it ain't for me to understand, and vice versa. Truth be told, and it goes back to the whole, you know, I want to call it the fad of culinary degrees or whatever, however you want to look at that, but that's the truth of it. You know, we're finding that throughout this entire time, That's not where good cooks come from. Oh, no, 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 no. Good cooks come from the most unsuspecting of places worldwide. The most
Dude,
low
it's
down, run down places.
it's not their fault.
No, it's not.
This was a marketing effort of monumental fucking scale, because I talked to somebody who worked for one of the biggest schools, you know, churn and burn. And, you know, when I was actually asked by the Art Institute to go to Texas to overhaul their entire curriculum, me and about 20 other people in this room with a facilitator. And the first thing we did is we talked about all the skills that we had and what kind of skills do we think that the students should have when they come out of a 2-year culinary school, right? 2-year. And the entire wall was full of like these yellow sticky notes. Now, the first thing that struck me was like, holy shit, man, I never gave myself enough credit for everything I know. And given the length and breadth of my experience and sometimes pin tears that I had to go through to get that, how the fuck am I going to expect someone to go through 2 years and get this, man? When they're already showing up as, and this is not a slight on anybody, okay? It's just the way things are. You know, my job as an elder, that I have willingly taken on is a responsibility to show up as a mature professional, because for a lot of my career, I was a completely fucking immature professional because I was continually bought into that whole hype about what a chef is and what they should be and how they treat other people. And that's not the truth, man. That's just that's the operators enabling us to do what we do until, as long as we keep the money coming in. But as soon as, you know, we have a bad service, they're like, oh, well, we got to make a change, man. You know, you're combative, you're all this other shit. So this whole idea about the schools were only doing it because they're a for-profit institution. And we want to blame it on the industry. And when I blame it on dude, we are the industry. I don't give a shit what anybody's going to say. Well, we're not the ones that, we're not, no. Like, nope. Listen, if you know that things could be better, if you are so grounded and connected to your values and the things that matter to you, then it is incumbent upon you to find the organization that mirrors that. If you can't find it, to fucking create it, because you had the idea. That means you're a leader. That means you have an opportunity to create something that no one else sees and that a lot of people want. So this whole idea of, you know, just kind of like going from the flow, and things are not gonna get much better, and what's it gonna take? And, you know, there was people during the pandemic that left. Their restaurants closed, so they didn't have a job. And there were some folks that are like, I don't want to go through this. Fuck it. And then when they got a taste of what it was like to be home in relationship and get fed to their hearts and their souls that way, man, that value proposition better be really, really good to bring me back to that fucking grind, man. That's why, you know, hashtag fuck the grind.
Right.
That's our way, man. Like, we don't believe in the grind.
Right. Sorry. Speaking of like value, if you were to ask a company how much they think an hour of your life is worth, your number and their number obviously aren't going to match.
Correct.
Okay. I want you to know that.
Because there's different ways to come to that same value proposition.
Evaluate it.
It might be in certain benefits. It might be in certain opportunities. Very rarely will I be able to say, hey, listen, I get paid $375 an hour. Okay. So come up with it. I'd be like, we can't.
Then
now there are ways there's way to work the books, and there are certainly tax implications that these people operators need to consider it. Right. They can't just, okay, I want to pay. Okay. Yes. And like, how do you get to that point to show an operator like, dude, I am going to show you where you've been leaving money on the table to the tune of 5% per your yearly revenue that you can reinvest in your business, so that not only can you retain more people, the best staff, but then you can also create a really tight container for this beautiful community you're building, that everybody feels like they're part of this, and become a point of attraction for other people on the street looking for a great job. Because there will always be people who want jobs in the restaurant industry. It is the largest employer in the world. Like, we got a big job, man. We
Yeah.
got a big job to try to turn
Yeah.
this battleship, and it's going to take all of us. But, you know, some of us get to talk about it. Some of us get to do it. Some of us get to investigate certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel very comfortable leading within community and pointing direction. And like, I have an idea, might not be a good idea. And then being open to discussion and like, well, because very often, you know, when two to come together, there's a bigger thing, right? There's this energetic play where, you know, you might have an idea, and as soon as I hear that idea, I start riffing on that, and then that's spurs something in you, and together, you and I are going to come up with something that is so much better than either one of us could have come up with independently. That's why it's so important as an operator or a chef, like, to gain consensus with your people. Take them out to the back dock, have a conversation. All right, so what do we value? Like, what do we stand for? Like, what's important to you?
What is our mission? Yeah, exactly.
Well, no. It's not even about the mission. It's like, what's important to you? Transparency, timely feedback. Like, what is important to you? Because if we can come to a consensus about what that is, then I can make a commitment to provide that to you in exchange for you being a positive influence at work.
You know, then there's a whole another side of that. I mean, you know, then you've got, so ideally that kind of perspective is for everyone in the industry. So let's just say that first and foremost. However, there are going to be people in the industry that are going to feel, okay, well, I'm almost out of the industry, or I'm thinking about leaving, or they feel that, you know, for some reason it's too late for them, you know. And I'll be honest, man, I'm kind of one of those people, but I feel that I'm needed outside of the kitchen in order to bring, you know, knowledge back to the kitchen. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely, man. Listen, I am completely down with somebody who says, like, listen, 25 years in, I fought the good fight. I don't have anything left. I'm like, I get it. You deserve, first of all, to be happy, to feel fulfilled, to be valued, to be seen. And if that means that you got to go outside the community in order to get that, cool. Like, how does that not work? Because ultimately what that happens is that person becomes happier. And as a reason of that, you know, happiness and joy and feeling start to affect everyone around him. And then all those lives, like, dude, I don't give a shit where it happens, as long as we start elevating the energetic resonance of our communities, and someone outside the industry can have a very profound effect. You know, there are thought leaders in every industry. You know, are they in the boardroom? Nope. You know, they're on the TED stage. They got their podcasts. Yeah. They are spurring people into a deeper sense of inquiry about what's possible. And so that's a really great thing. So I don't think you should, like, I get crap from chefs because, you know, now I identify as a consultant. I choose to be a consultant, right? I choose this for my life based upon what I want for my life, the values that I'm holding. How can that be bad? Well, it's not bad. It's bad because, you know, dude, you don't know what we're going through. Like, you're not a fucking chef. You're not on the apron. You're not on a line grinding like I do. Really? 35 fucking years, man. And you're not going to tell me what you go through? Son, that shit is old hat. And as long as you want to cling to that badge of honor of being betrayed by that which you formerly loved, and go ahead, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's, you know, and again, in the fifth dimension, all that shit, like, cancer is a manifestation of an emotional schism, right? Okay. Somewhere there's this thing that's like, it all dis-ease is based off of a mental construct, because brain is so fucking strong. Dude, it's the biggest pharmacy there is. It is pumping different neurochemicals and proteins into your body continuously, often based on a memory of something that's not even happening. PTSD, their heart starts racing because they were remembering as it was in the moment, and their body is reacting as it was then, in the now. That's how deep the connection goes. There are ways to look at that and actually shift that so it becomes something that actually contributes to a more fulfilling, grounded, peaceful life of contribution. Or, again, be continually victimized by this idea that my life sucks, nothing's gonna fucking change, I gotta get out of this industry, because guess what? Wherever you go, there you are. If you don't make peace with where you're at now, come to a point of grace, gratitude, and thanks for what you've been given or what you've actually attained, the skill, the knowledge that no one can ever fucking take from you. None of that. Like, if you can't come to a place of generosity, you're going to take that into your next job and wonder why the fuck nothing's changed. It's hard, man. It's hard to do this shit. That's why so many people resist waking up, because the world is created to put us to fucking sleep, man. The world is created to anesthetize us to actually the power of our own divinity.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get religious, but it's I know you get that, man.
Yeah. You know, I look at, you know, your background behind the stove, you know, I look at, you know, I look at it and I see, well, first and foremost, let me just say that I'm glad you're taking the fucking elder thing, because I'm not old enough to do that shit. So, you know, I know I don't, bro, but you know, but
someday my body's telling me that I gotta slow down.
I feel that, but there's things are aching in my body going, yo, no, that's already a thing. Like, damn.
Like, where did that come from?
You know, that picture that you see on the internet of like a really old man, and it says, being a chef is easy, John, age 25. And it looks like the dude's 80. Right. That's how I feel. But you're absolutely right. It's a trap. It really is. And, you know, whether it's money, whether it's passion, you get stuck in that
connection, relationship, fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's all a trap. And I totally get it, man. And yet in the moment, in the fucking mix on the saute station, man, forget it, man. Wall-to-wall tickets. The machine keeps spitting out. Dude, I could expedite 700 early birds and then turn the whole line around for another 1,100. And I was the only one who had a machine and tickets off of 7 stations. Like, and in the moment I would think, oh my God, man, like so connected to everything that's going on, like hyper, like everything's brighter. Everything's like, the adrenaline is pumped through my body. That's why I say that, you know, I've had 2 primary addictions. Number 1 is my negative self-talk. The second one was adrenaline. And everything was in support of that. That's it. You know, and very often the adrenaline fed the self-talk. God bless my wife at the time. You know, she would give me $35 to go to work with for the week. And I'm like, here you go, honey. And meanwhile, she's holding down the house. She's managing everything, mortgage, 2 car payments, 2 brand new girls. I don't know how she did it on my salary. But on a Saturday night, man, I would feel like I am being controlled and manipulated, and God damn it, don't I deserve this? And I would go to the ATM at 2 a.m. and it's, Chris Rock says, you know, ain't nothing fucking good happening at an ATM at 2 o'clock in the morning. No. And, you know, come home at 4:30, 5 o'clock and wake up the next morning in abject terror of like, oh my God, how the fuck am I going to hide this? Like ATM receipts, like just go online. And yeah, I wasn't very good at it. But what it did is it helped feed that cycle of negative self-talk, because now I get to kick my own ass and spend the next 24 to 48 hours before being discovered for this, again, pretty immature act, and just use it to, you know, pummel myself. And I just got fucking tired of that, man.
Yeah. I mean, what happens when all of those memories and all of those emotions and feelings that you tried to drown out with whatever vices, what if those come screaming back?
Yeah. And because they will, right? Either they're going to come through your body as some type of, you know, back problem. I've had 2 back surgeries. I had to get 1 on my neck. And that's literally from carrying the emotional weight around my neck like an albatross of, you know, all my negative self-talk. And so I had to make a decision. Okay, so this stuff is going to come through me. And as I got cleaner, more connected, and consistently was engaged in my own self-nurture, which meant, you know, meditation, saltwater floats, saunas, like all the stuff that really serves me, I realized that the veil started thinning and a lot of this stuff was coming through and I didn't really know what to do with it. So, you know, I still smoke, I still drink occasionally, and I'm very aware that when I do, it's a way of mitigating the energy that's flowing through my body, because I don't necessarily have a good enough tool yet to be able to like transmute the energy that's going through my body in a way that it doesn't want to blow my head off and I become, you know, a crazy person and get locked up. But, you know, I have people in my life who I love, like my wife, Jennifer, who's seen me through a lot of this stuff since I started really getting into doing my own work. And that involves doing a lot of work with men, like doing men's work, which I can't recommend more highly, because there's something about being seen by other men that is so fucking healing, because we've been trained, shamed, and conditioned to be wary
See
of one
men
another.
as competition immediately.
Yeah, man. Either competition or as a direct threat to either your sovereignty or to your life, man. Right. So always keeping your, like, it's exceedingly tiring, man, to continually hold your fucking cards up to your chest, man. Wouldn't it be cool to be able to sit in circle with a bunch of men who are, their only reason to be there is to hear one another with ears that are filled with love and compassion, and just let you spill your shit, man. Like, they don't have any fucking judgment. They don't. And unless you ask for feedback, they're not going to fucking give it to you, because that's the way, you know, those are one of the agreements of holding that space. But what I found is that working with other men has allowed me to become much more sensitive to the women in my life. So there's no way that I could be sitting here with you right now, man, if I hadn't had that dark night of the soul and looked at myself in the mirror and go, I love you. And now I got to put some fucking work in.
Yeah.
Because,
sorry, go ahead.
No. It's just, I got no more, man.
I mean, it's the work, bro. You showed up for you, and that's the truth. And sometimes it's that simple. There's a passage that I because I started writing, you know, obviously, and there's a passage that I use that I wrote that it goes, no matter the hands, you know, dirty or clean, it's how the person uses them based off of their character. And what I meant by that was, it doesn't matter where your hands come from. Okay. You have one hand of your father and one hand of your mother. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Balance is perfect in all things of life. So why wouldn't it apply to you? What makes you think that you don't deserve a balance? I mean, we're both evil and good. We're happy and sad. We're excited and lazy at the same time. We're so capable of all of these emotions. What makes you think that it's going to stop just with one person, you know? Okay. Or, you know, people aren't going to feel it. I think that in order to cook, you have to have some kind of level of empathic ability to be able to put emotions into food. And we do it all the time.
Well, you know, you bring up a great point about, you know, the polarities. You know, we're also both masculine and feminine on a spectrum, you know, and depending on where you land, regardless of how you identify, very often, that's how you show up emotionally, because those are the neurochemicals and proteins that are being produced by your brain. And so it took me a while to actually connect with the fact that, all right, you know what? I'm probably about 60% masculine, 40% feminine. And to be okay with that meant that I could have a more fluid and cleaner access to those parts of myself that are considered, you know, the ken of the feminine, like intuition. Because for men, my experience has been that, you know, we need to wrestle a problem to the ground and to death and have an answer before we're actually willing to actually bring that out. Whereas the feminine wants to be in communication with somebody, because in the speaking of it, they're actually coming to their own conclusions in a co-cooperative way, which is how, again, only my experience, how the feminine works. Because if you've ever heard 4 or 5 girls talking at a party or at a tip, they're all talking to one another because they're all in contribution to one another, and they're picking all of it up. And for a man like me, I'm like, oh, you know, can you ramp that back down? But the more I like just be okay with the fact that, you know, I am both masculine and feminine, allows me to have a more profound access to intuition, compassion, those things that traditionally have been the role of women, but in fact are available to all of us.
Do you know why? And if we're going to, you know, talk about the polarity of men and women, I'm going to compare the two notably with a joke, because it's funny. Do you know why men have 2 brains and women have 2 sets of lips?
Why is that?
Because men think a little bit more and women tend to talk a lot.
So I think that's brilliant. And I saw something the other day, or I was watching a program where this guy was talking about the Google Google engineers that they're actually social scientists because they've been able to figure out that men watch porn, but women read it.
Yeah.
Right. And when you think about how that communication is happening in the brain, that's why I had a teacher by the name of Satyan Raja, who's from Canada, the warrior sage, when he explained like in business, and like, I don't want to piss anybody off, but the fact of the matter is, if we can't acknowledge that there's difference between the masculine and feminine, I know most corporate America wants to say that we're all the same, but we're not.
No.
And if you want to profoundly affect someone in their career path, you know, if this person's more masculine, then you give them a loving challenge. And if someone's more feminine in their aspect, then you give them loving praise. And I thought that was fucking beautiful, man. I couldn't think of anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right. But this idea of challenge as a way of, you know, continuing to sharpen the spear. And, you know, the Maasai of Africa say, the only way, you know, a spear can only sharpen another spear. So we fulfill roles within each other, both energetically and psychologically, that allow us to perform more fluidly in the space if we're all in harmony. Right. So if some dude's, you know, verbally beat had this pastry chef. I loved him. He's a great guy, but he couldn't stand Americans or women. And guess who worked in his kitchen?
All women Americans.
And I spent probably 70% of my time down there putting out fires and doing a lot of coaching with him because I couldn't understand why the fuck he wanted to make a big deal about this. Right. And in the end, he just accused me of wanting to fuck him. Like, that's why you're down here talking. I'm like, dude, really?
No, you're just being a dick.
Until he's not. Like, I could look at him and like accuse, like have all this aggression against him, but I just know that he doesn't know. Like, you don't beat a dog for wagging its tail.
No.
Right? If that's the amount of self-awareness that's possible in that moment, then I gain nothing by being a fucking asshole with that, man. Yeah.
And you know, it's good to see that there's finally some people trying to make a change within the industry. I mean, there was nights of despair that I can remember back to. How am I going to pay rent, or how am I going to eat tomorrow? And it's, you know, something's got to give. And finally it's happening. But I think that it suffice to say that we're really doing it for the people that we lost along the way. You know, and that's
and for those who are yet to come.
Some of those assholes, though. I don't know.
I mean, part of it is in honor, and also part of it is legacy. Like, who wouldn't want to leave the career and the profession that they got so much enjoyment and development from? Who wouldn't want to leave it better than when they found it?
I mean, there's parts that just shouldn't exist at all.
Right, man.
But I mean, that's a whole different fucking rabbit hole right there. It depends on where you work. That is the truth.
That's absolutely true.
You know, I've worked at some pretty high-end establishments, nothing Michelin, I'll admit. You know, I've worked at some pretty low-end establishments. Like, I got paid half of my paycheck in fucking liquor, so that worked out pretty well for me, you know. But you know, we make these deals. Trust me, I was able to afford my bills because I understood the metric system very well, I'll tell you that. But you know, the fact of the matter is like, you know, you never have just one income. Okay. So you never have just one emotion. You have to understand that. Okay. Different levels of income mean different levels of emotion. If we're looking at it from, you know, a typical capitalistic American perspective, if you can respect that there's more than one income, then there's more than one emotion. That being said, fucking take care of yourself. If you can't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to help anybody else. However, if it's parachutes, maybe try and share. Just saying, if there's only 5 parachutes and there's 6 people, someone's got to share. Don't just be like, sacrifice myself. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. But remember, you don't get to see to the end of your story that way.
Right. True. Yeah. Being a martyr just sucks, man.
Yeah. You know,
being a martyr for your staff, being a martyr for your company, being a martyr for your family. You know, that's why it's someone who's like not accustomed to like going to get a pedicure, you know, would like, why the hell would I do that? Well, first off, your woman's not saying it, but she would appreciate it because you're scratching the shit out of her legs. But there's this idea that once you start down that path of like what it feels like to love yourself first, to put yourself at the top of the totem pole, because you know that energized and filled back up, you can and be more present and active. Like, I don't know about you, bro, but there was a long time in my life where I could not take a compliment.
Yeah. Yep.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah. Like as if they needed to know what I did. Right? Because like no one's gonna understand all that. Like, that's right, motherfucker. No one is gonna understand that, because that's your skill. That you said. We were talking yesterday about the tailors, those secret stitches that they put in that no one is ever gonna see unless they stumble across it and discover it. And yet somehow that means that everybody's supposed to know every single step that we took in order to put that in front of them. Like, why? Like, can't we, like, isn't our appreciation enough? Can I look at that and go, job well done, motherfucker? Yeah, nobody needs to tell me shit because I know that motherfucker rocks. Right?
I think that, part of, and I'll call myself out here. That's fine. I have a very hard time taking a compliment, but it's not anything personal. It's
no.
That's not where my mind's at. My mind's, okay, how do people benefit from this? Or how can I help somebody? Or how does this, or honestly, what am I doing next? Like I've already, there's moments in my life for catharsis, don't get me wrong, but there's also moments in my life where I feel that I'm living on borrowed time already. I'm not making, the money that I want to make per se. I'm still kind of 1 foot in the trap, 1 foot out. At any moment, the tax guy is going to come kick my door down for unpaid something or other that I can't prove who knows?
That's why we got the go bag in the garage, man. It's all set.
Exactly. Well, fair enough. But that's the truth. Like I'm stuck in a country, not stuck in a country, but I'm stuck in a country where I have to politically pick between red or blue, or worry about being arrested by red or blue. All right. Listen, some people, it's a lot of people that I've cooked with that are going to hear this. I'm a white male, Caucasian male. Okay. If you're not a white Caucasian male liked by other white Caucasian males, there's a problem.
That's an interesting perspective. I don't necessarily know if I would call it the truth, but it sounds like a good story, right? It sounds like it should be true.
And I can actually prove it. That's the fucked up part. Like, I worked in these kitchens where people were like, hey, I'm going out and buying this new truck or this new car, and I've got all this money, and I'm just like, fucking how? You know what I mean? Like, I've got more than one income. Like, how the hell is this? What are you doing? And then, like, because you don't have so much money, or because you don't choose to do this after work, or spend your entire paycheck on copious amounts of cocaine, which not a good idea.
I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. Just so that.
But weed, maybe. But the point is, I was very drunk. But again, 2 a.m. Chris Rock.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
There's certain sins that I have to atone for, and I feel that my atonement for those said sins is kind of, I feel like I'm living on borrowed time because I need to learn for those things. I need to, okay, fine. You want to go out into the world and learn shit and bring it back and teach, go ahead. Now you got to do it. And then I'm just like, here, hopefully in a few years, sitting in the Serengeti, smoking a joint going, shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, how am I got a hyena looking at me that way? That does not look too fucking happy. That's a fucking crocodile. That thing looks like it's going to eat me. And that's a lion. I'm fucked. You know what I mean? Like, that's the truth. But you got to get there, right? You got to get there.
I get it. The reason I bring up that whole thing about accepting a compliment is that for me, words are not a love language of mine. Like, a love language for me is like acts and gifts. And the worst thing you can do for any of the listeners or viewers is to assume that your love language is the same as your partner's. Yeah, that ain't gonna fucking work. But so for me, anybody telling me, all right, so there's a part in in Roadrunner that just fucking killed me. And I told my wife, listen, I'm gonna go see this movie. I don't think you should fucking come with me. She's like, why? I'm gonna be upset. And she's like, well, I'm coming. I'm like, I don't want you to be there. So she came anyway. And we walked outside, and like when we got outside the parking lot, I had to walk, you know, for about 40 minutes just to expel the energy. But when his friend, the female musician, says that, you know, Anthony was surrounded by people who loved him, he just didn't believe them. I heard that like a hammer in my heart, man, in such a way that I totally fucking got what she was talking about. Because if you authentically believe that you are unlovable, like authentically to the core of yourself, like believe that you are fundamentally wrong and irredeemable, then it doesn't matter what fucking anybody's gonna say. Like, oh, I love you. Oh, that's nice. Meanwhile, thinking either they're full of shit, they don't know me, or they're just lying.
Or what do they want?
Because I have already accepted the fact lovable because of this, and this, which, you know, took me a lot. Like I had to let that settle all the way through my body because I got it, man. I understood. That's why I could never take a fucking compliment. It's not that, you know, I think you're bullshit. But there are some people who blow smoke up your ass for sure. But as somebody who knows you authentically is offering their heart to you, this gift of appreciation, and you shit on them by going like, no, it's all right. Like throw the fucking gift back in their face. That ain't about them. That's about me, man. I had to look at that and go, oh, so am I unlovable? Am I essentially a bad person and irredeemable and unworthy of love? Because if that's what I believe, then yeah, shit's gonna happen in my life that, you know, I fully expect that, you know, get all these weird diseases and, you know, find myself in a wheelchair, and which would not be happy. My wife would not be happy. But I mean, it's almost as a sense of self-preservation to think that, you know, I'm 60, and instead of looking at like my dad died when he was 59. So the fact that I'm already here genetically has dispelled the proof that that there's any linkage around there. But I can tell you that emotionally, the change that I made was even more powerful because my dad felt like he was trapped by his life choices. And so for me to flip the script on that and actually take responsibility instead of being a victim of it, I know has improved my longevity. And I'm looking at it like I got another 30 years. So who do I need to be to actually be present to the joy that my life is and fucking enjoy it, man? Like, do I really want to be world weary and cynical and like shit on other people when they have, hi, how are you? What the fuck would you know? Right? Is that really who I want to be? I mean, I can write that shit all day long, right? Being a writer, but it just authentically makes me feel shitty inside, like sours my stomach. I would so much rather be like this with you, connected and talking about some fucking juicy shit and possibilities, man. That's what fucking gets me going, man. That to me is like worth the price of admission. And you're gonna have to pull me out of here kicking and screaming, because I ain't walking out until I've gotten my full fee.
I mean, listen, as long as you can afford the wristband, I guess, is how all the cool kids are doing it. But
yeah, well, we've got a copier in the closet, so we'll just.
You know, I speaking of the price of admission, man. You know, there's this amusement park of shows that you're doing right now. You got Line Check. You got what was it? The table,
turning the table, Chef Life Radio. I am also working. So all that content is cross-purposed and extracted by this really kick-ass platform I just found. So it's all, you know, you can see it on Instagram as, you know, videos, or the video podcast gets converted to an audio pretty seamlessly. So it's cool. But really what this is working towards is I'm just now starting to work on a program course called the New Kitchen Culture Leadership Bootcamp. So this is going to be a program that has not only learning modules in it, but also group coaching within a Facebook group. People will have the opportunity to be in a hot seat, bring their fucking problems or challenges. You know, we want it all. As well as at November 15th, I'll be publishing my fourth book, which is titled Be a Better Chef, a recipe for culinary leadership for the hashtag New Kitchen Culture. So it's all kind of working seamlessly now, which if you talked to me 3 weeks ago, you'd have thought I'm like chasing my tail because I didn't necessarily know how all these pieces fit together, which is why I'm so grateful that we're able to chat about this too. And I just got to say, man, that, you know, the things that you and I talk about is not specific to the restaurant industry or working in a kitchen. I know for a fact in talking to a lot of people that they have the same types of frustrations in the jobs they have. Like, I love this whole fucking quiet quit thing. Like, can you imagine a line cook quiet quitting? Like, no, motherfucker, you still got to break the station down. You can't just walk off. But but on the other side of that, there's this heartening thing about people. Like, let's co-create the boundaries and let's hold them, right? I'm not like, did you know that now in Canada, along with Germany, it is illegal for an employer to call you on your day off?
What?
And talk to you about work.
Wow.
In Germany, you can't even call the employee on their day off. It's a fine. So there are countries, and there are certainly, and listen, for all you United States and companies, nothing saying that you can't institute that as an internal policy, right? Listen, I'll never call you on your day off, which might make some managers really fucking panic because you've been their go-to person and it can get you on fucking short notice and shit like that. And maybe for you, it's worked because, you know, you needed the extra scratch anyway. Now what do you do with this time? Well, welcome to the discovery, man. Welcome to your journey, because it can't all be about work. I mean, it can, but listen, man, if you're going to go to bed with, you know, the restaurant industry at the end of the night and, you know, try to cuddle up to her because you know you're going to get some, you're going to wake up in the morning, man, pretty cold and alone because she is a harsh motherfucking mistress, man. She does not play.
It's Karma's cousin. You know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't get Karma herself because she was just like a real fly at the club or some shit. And you were like, fine, I got to settle for her cousin because at least like I could like work up the ladder because like, you know, there's that totem pole. But what they're not telling you about is the fact that both of those girls got mad and was talking and now they want to shove that totem pole up your ass. I mean, this isn't sounding fun.
Right, man. And it's not like I'm down for the identification as the feminine to this particular industry that can take everything that you're willing to give until you have nothing left. Because I know men that are the same way, man. That'll take you giving it. I'm taking it, motherfucker. I'm going to take it all. And then when you got nothing left to give, it's like, where's the loyalty? What loyalty? What, like loyalty to what? To each other. Like, we have an obligation to one another. And Rodney, I don't, you know, the fact that you are in contribution here on this show, you know, dude, I love your writing and I love everything that you got going on, but you got to get, man, that what you're doing is important, not in a, oh my God, I got to keep doing it kind of way. But I've heard you say a couple lines, well, you know, I'm doing, no, well, nothing, man. You're holding down what you do and making it a gift to those who are willing to meet you halfway. And you should not minimize any of that, man. Any of that at all. What you're doing is a gift. And I think that's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate that. I do. I just hope that, you know, at least it helps one person, you know, that's the point. Like, because here's the thing. I did, but I didn't have, you know, a direct mentor. There was, of course, a litany of people we could talk about. Looking
yeah, man. But that's a book. That's not somebody at your side, right?
You know, and so when we take, you know, social media today, and we take the ability to you know, reach out and touch some of these people, like, I felt it only necessary that, like, hey, okay, if I can't draw, there's these old bones, right? And these old bones will make a very good stock, let's admit, okay? But, you know, I can't bring myself to bring the taste out anymore. But however, I can give these old bones to a new generation and teach them how to break that stock. Because once you break that down and you create that with the mirepoix and all of those things, and you learn the foundations and you can pass on that passion, then I feel that what I've done is successful.
Yep. I agree. Listen, there's a bunch of research around this idea of these aspects of a mature masculine, you know, kind of like the 4 manifestations are king, warrior, magician, and lover. And the magician is related to jobs that either have to do with initiation or secret knowledge. And I can tell you from my deepest core how profoundly I connect with the fact that as a chef, as a cook, there is someone, an acolyte, a young one coming into your space that wants the knowledge. And as a true mentor, it's your responsibility to not necessarily let that go, because nothing given is ever really valued. So there's that part about earning. And again, this is all dinosaur shit in the back of our brains and our hearts. But somehow there's this value relationship that once you get it because you earned it, you'll never fucking forget it ever. Mm-hmm. And that's why like gratuitous coaching is so fucking like, I'm gonna bullshit, man. Can I coach you? Yes. Okay. So then, because nobody listens to that shit. But this other idea of like going to a mystery school, man, like just think like back in the day with the alchemists, you know, this is literally what's going on in our kitchens. There's something that gets transformed into something else, and someone else is behind it, and they hold the key.
It's called equivalent exchange.
Right. But there's a price to be paid between the apprentice and the mentor. But again, this whole idea of like, okay, so your bones are brittle. Totally get it, dude. Can't extract any more stock out of that. I don't give a shit about your bones. I don't care about your bones. What I care about, what's in here and what's in here. Because there, you're connected to the infinite, and you have constant connection to the mystery school things that you have gained along your way, that unless you give that away, man, you know, what value does it have? Like, yeah, it served me. Now I want to give it to you. I'd like to give this to your gift. Would you be willing to take this gift from me? Like, you know, this whole kind of initiatory process. There hasn't been a formalized ritual of initiation for boys and girls to become men and women since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And I'm telling you, man, there is a wound at the core of the subconscious for both the masculine and feminine, especially for the masculine, because previous to that, you know, dad was on the farm, you knew where he was all the time, and you were like working with him, and there was uncles and and the aggregation of labor during the Industrial Revolution meant all you knew now was your dad came home after you didn't see him for 15 hours from the mines, and he's pissed off and drunk. Because it goes against thousands of years of programming that this has happened. There was an initiated group of elders at the outside of the village. The boy comes 14. They come into the village. They grab him. All right. You know, often against his mother's will. No, don't take him. Please fucking take him. You know, so there are certain roles and responsibilities around mentorship that have to emulate this this form of initiation. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you know, they always point to Star Wars as like the ultimate hero's journey, right? Where he has to, you know, he's had loss. He needs to find a mentor. The mentor has to die, and he has to fail. You know, these are all parts of an archetypical emotional and psychological journey that all children go on. But what a lot of people don't understand is that as far as child psychology goes, the hero is the last archetype to show up, right? Because now he's 12, 13. Now it's his hero's journey. The end of the hero's journey is that the hero must die so that the mature masculine warrior can take his place. And so that's what I see going on a lot. It's just like, I got this hero, he's running around, he wants to get the accolade, and he's never really quite ready to step into his warrior role, which is a much more grounded, hairy, solid type of emotional makeup, because a true warrior knows that he never brings out his weapon unless it's in defense of the things that he loves. Right? Whereas a hero will just go off on it. So I didn't mean to go on that rant.
It's the way of the samurai. It's the way of the samurai.
This is going on in our kitchens. It's going on in our daily lives, because we're fools not to recognize that, because as mentors, we can actually make a difference in such a profound way. I'm talking to this guy right now, God bless his soul. You know, him and his buddy were the fucking sharpest knives in the drawer. You know, they held down the night. I mean, these guys were really talented as young bucks. And, you know, after lunch, you'd see them running across the parking lot to their apartment because they were booting, you know, hillbilly heroin so that they could come back. And I'm like, I sat them both down. I'm like, I'm going to tell you this straight up, dude. Like, you guys, you got it. You fucking got it. You can parlay this into something that's more profound. And it wasn't too long after that they're like, yeah. Both were fired. And did you know, about a week after they were fired, they were hung up in this house, and I spent 3 days there, you know, doing some addiction counseling and shit with them, because my responsibility to them didn't end when they left the job. Right? As a mentor, I am always your mentor. As your coach, I am always your fucking coach, because the energetic and emotional connection is what makes that relationship possible. And it's not all altruistic, dude. It's not like I give all to you and like, here you go. No, man, there's an energetic exchange, and also, you know, this up leveling of energy, like being connected to youth for an elder is, you know, that primes that motherfucker pump. You know, I feel solid, worthy, and of use, right? To be able to be in contribution. So again, I just want to honor you for what you're doing. I want to thank you for, you know, having me on the show. I know we didn't talk a lot more about marijuana, but
it's implied. I mean, that's the truth. Like, obviously we smoke weed. If you work in the kitchen and you don't smoke weed, we need to talk about your life decisions.
I can tell you that my very first executive chef job, my very first one, I had a long, about 45, 50-minute drive from Chicago out to the suburbs. Okay. And, you know, I'd burn about half a joint every day going out there. And there was a succession of events that happened that, you know, peeking on my buzz, walking through the door, and shit has gone completely fucking sideways. And people are in my face. And after about the third time of that, I'm like, oh, this is not working for me. Not to say that I don't appreciate, you know, the way it works in your body and how it changes my perspective. But yeah, for me, in order to function in that environment, that had to be something that I put off the side. And I know for a lot of people, it's their medicine to get them through the day. So no judgment, totally get it. Honor that. Thank God a lot of the establishments come back around to, you know, the wisdom of plant medicine. And
I look at it this way, man, very simply, and this is very blunt, and I apologize for anyone who thinks this is traumatic, but
stop apologizing.
Well, I don't want people to, you know, what I'm going to say, if it's traumatic, I don't want them to be upset about it, but I would much rather stick a fucking, you know, a blunt or a, you know, a bowl or something up to my mouth and pull the trigger and light that shit and get high than put a bullet in my brain. Yeah. That's the truth. So, I mean, it's, you know, if I've got to do, it's a plant, you know what I'm saying? If I've got to do what I've got to do to just keep waking up each morning and keep doing something, I'm gonna.
It's medicine. It's medicine until it becomes a crutch. Right. And then, you know, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. But I think it would be really important at this time in the show to just remind folks that, you know, we've gone and talked about a lot of different stuff. Some of it might have been triggering. You know, I tried to watch The Bear on Hulu, and about 45 minutes into this, I had to shut the fucking thing off because I'm like, I lived it. I don't need to fucking watch it. It's not fun for me. But if you are going through an emotional challenge and something in the show's got you a little edgy, and you need to talk to somebody,
reach out to us.
Reach out to us. And the Burnt Chef Project did some research where they said almost 80% of culinary professionals have reported that they had an incident with their mental health during their career, and almost none of them, like 64%, didn't feel comfortable talking to their family, friends, or bosses about it. So that's why this free service exists. And so if you're in a spot, man, and you need to talk to somebody, and you need it just to be someone who's not emotionally entangled with you, totally get that. But text 741-741. I'm sorry, text HOME, home, the word home, to 741-741. That's the Burnt Chef Project's free helpline. Someone will call you back within 5 minutes with a list of free resources that you can use right now to get the help that you need. So we're not sitting around and waiting for folks in the industry to smarten up and offer these type of services. We're, you know, organizations like the Burnt Chef Project are doing it themselves. And I gotta tell you, man, when I lived in South Florida and I was coming home at 3 o'clock in the morning and trying to fucking stay within the white lines, on FM radio 2:30 every Friday and Saturday night, man. It's the clean and sober hour. So I don't know what organization was putting it on, but there were these conversations with, recovering addicts. And I thought, these know their market, because the only time their show on is when everybody's fucked up. So, so if you happen to be watching the show and you're a little too twisted up, that's cool. But if you seriously think that you would really benefit from talking to somebody, do that. And if you're comfortable, you can always call or text me at 828-688-0080. I don't know if I'll be your 2 o'clock friend, but I will make sure that I get back to you.
We won't leave you on red.
I don't want another hospitality professional to take their own life because they think that nobody cared, that they weren't valued, that nobody would listen to them, or that they didn't have access to resources. Not another one on my fucking watch, period. Shit's hard, probably going to get a little bit harder, but as soon as you understand that you hold the keys to your freedom, both emotionally and energetically, then nothing's going to hold you back. But at some point there's going to have to be a decision about what do you want in your life? What do you value? Like, what really do you value? And sometimes that's a line of inquiry that some people are uncomfortable about. That's why I love connecting and coaching and mentoring with folks in order to be in that discovery, because it's just something really fucking juicy, man, about when the fucking penny drops in their eyes and they get like, oh my God, that's fucking it. Because really the only value in having this conversation, or the fact that you and I are together in this conversation, is we get to share different perspectives, man. Right? Like you said, wait a second, I didn't think oh yeah, you're making a great point. Like, I didn't know that. Hadn't considered. So that's what I value, man. One of my core values is being in deep, transparent and vulnerable relationships with people who want to meet me there. Because really talking about the game is fucking boring for me, man.
That's the truth. I mean, I've always been a person to where if I can't help somebody with an issue, we're going to try and help them find the help that they need, or find someone with an answer. And that is the absolute truth. I mean, again, y'all, chefliferadio.com. Make sure you go check him out. Adam Lamb is my dude right here. Bird Chef Project, Line Check, Turning the Tables, Chef Life Radio. You got the Daily Chronicles right here. It's out there, y'all. If you need, I just want you to be heard at the end of the day. That's literally it. I understand that y'all know, but I just want you to be heard. Okay.
You got this.
That's
this.
I mean,
that's
the truth.
You came into this life with everything you'll ever need in order to work your magic to create a life that you deserve. And sometimes we got to step out the fuck our own way, and there's not a lot of people out there who'll talk this kind of truth. So, I'm so happy to, be facilitated by you, brother, and be given space, because some of these conversations make people really nervous, and some people, like, that lands with them like, yep, fucking totally get that, dude.
I mean, you can probably go ahead and just chalk me up into that. I mean, that's, I
love you, man.
What more can I add to it? I mean, a little bit of illustration here and there, but overall, for the most part, it's the same story, but at the same time, all perspectives matter. And
that's right.
I can't thank you enough, Adam, for coming on the show, doing the work that you love you too, man, doing the work that you're doing. I got to be involved with it. I got to put it out there. I got to make sure that other people can be heard.
No, you're one of my biggest fans, man. I see you cross posting on all kinds of stuff. And some days it's hard for me to even catch up and say thank you. So if I haven't said it lately, thank you very much for putting it out there. And hopefully this connects folks with what's actually behind the post, and they're engaged enough to come search. And just to everybody knows, Rodney's going to be on my show, Chef Life Radio, because again,
look forward to it.
The conversation just continues to get deeper, man. So I think it's incumbent upon us to continue to investigate what that conversation looks like in service to the craft we love and to the brothers and sisters who could make it this far, and those who will, follow us.
Yeah, if you guys want something, if you guys want something raw, tune into that episode. Because I'll peel back some layers. I mean, I don't really mind. I just hope that Listen, trigger warning right now before that episode.
We will. I already have I already have a pre-roll PSA queued up. There's everybody's going to be warned. It's like, don't it's all good, man. And again, I think that sometimes you and I kid each other that what we're actually talking about is shocking, when in fact to a lot of folks it just comes as fucking good news, man.
Well, let's hope. But speaking of good news, we have reached another monumental, amazing end of this. It's amazing, man. This is. Thank you. Seriously, thank you.
Stay tall and frosty, y'all.
Yeah. I mean, my tokers, my jokers, and my smokers. We'll see you all on the other side. Be good and be happy with each other. You know what I'm saying? But until then, y'all, peace.